Rodney Washington. I'm an associate professor here at the University of Mississippi Medical Center in population health science. So I'm the youngest of 8, born and raised in the Mississippi Delta in Holmes County, and I have 2 adult children and 3 grandchildren. The Black men in my circle are very actively engaged in their children's lives, but we get that on a local sense, but you don't get that in national sort of narratives as often as I would like to see as a father myself. So I think these stories are very important for us, fighting back some of those stereotypes that are already out there about, males of color and their lack of engagement, which I find to be, not as truthful in how they are portrayed. There are not a lot of narratives out there for males of color. No dad willingly wants to not be engaged with their children. I was a single dad for a while with my daughter, but I think that it is important to try and, as parents, even if you're not together, to learn ways to co-parent. And sometimes disagreements land in a space where it can trickle into how parenting looks for the child. But learning how to, even if the relationship is not there, to learn to co-parent positively so that that child can still get the best of both parents and not feel put in the middle of a relationship. I was a very young dad, and so I think those are the kinds of things that I wish I had really considered in some of those antagonistic exchanges, that those exchanges could have been handled in a better way for the benefit of bringing the child up in that kind of environment. Yeah, I felt supported with my family, but not in terms of systems. The system,
Right.
even as a single dad, I wasn't supported as a single father in the way that a single mother would have been, given in my same situation. I did not know where resources were. I didn't know, where support landed for me or where to even seek out support. So it was either I had to find it or else it wasn't going to happen. Fortunately, I was supported by amazing people that I work with. Older women at my job would keep my daughter for me, and that kind of thing. But that was the only way I could do it. I mean, even as a graduate student, I had to take my daughter to class sometimes, and faculty would allow me to take my daughter to class. I don't think I was nervous. I was very excited, actually, with my firstborn and with my son as well. I was very excited to be a dad. There were no nerves about the parenting part. I think that I was probably woefully naive about that, what that entailed. But I think, but I wasn't nervous. I was very excited to have children. That the events that have happened this year, I am concerned that whether it's my son that is 24 or my grandson that is 2, that will they still have to come up and deal with the same things that I have to think through, that my father was in a more intense situation growing up in Jim Crow, that when does that, level out where we get to say we are finally making gains in terms of what race relation looks like for us. I'm a runner, and so that I was really shaken by that. I am oftentimes in white spaces. So when Brother Cooper was in Central Park and she attempted to weaponize 911, all of those things as a Black man, you try and think ahead of and understand your setting and understand your space. And you try to think in real time, several different outcomes, and then you try and come up with what you think will be the best way to navigate that. And so you get exhausted of trying to think ahead of people's behavior that way. And the videos are so graphic, and you always see yourself as George Floyd. You always see yourself as Ahmaud Arbery, because it's not just a Southern thing. It is not. It is an illness of this country. And so I am concerned. It's not about me dreaming for a place. It is more concerned that what does this country look like for them? The level of hate that is out there right now has been so normalized that it's no longer a place where you get slips, or people make misstatements that they call misstatements. They're just telling you, this is where it is. This is our country. This is our stuff. Like, go back home. And you're watching that as if, you knew it was there, but I think it is troubling to see where the allies really are, because it can't be the burden of the folk that's most affected by it. And so now there's this whole push for anti-racism and all of that, and questions being asked on how to be allies and all of that. A great deal of that work has to happen within white communities and in white spaces. And so did I think that it would get to this point? I had some idea around 2016 it would. Yeah, so it does. It's frightening. It's frightening as a person. It is frightening as a parent that, I should not be concerned if my son calls and says that he's hanging out. I should not be concerned about what that looks like in terms of his safety.